When I teach group piano lessons, I always begin by asking, how many of you took piano lessons at some point? A great many folks will raise their hand. And then I ask, how many of you are still taking piano lessons? And at that point, nobody raises their hands. So I ask, why did you quit? And there were many answers, but the number one answer that I received was, I found it frustrating reading piano music. It was tedious and slow. Now I understood their frustration. Traditional piano music, classical piano music, it can be a challenge to read at first. And why is that? Well, you have to read two clefs at the same time, and the lines and spaces don't match. So on the treble clef staff, for example, the spaces are F, A, C, E, the famous face. But on the bass clef, the spaces are A, C, E, G. Now, some of us piano students tried to learn the bass clef by using the phrase, all cows eat grass, or all cars eat gas, and that helped us remember. But the difficulty comes when you try to read the two clefs simultaneously and get the two hands working together. Now, another problem that piano students often had, one that I had, was that we had to learn pieces that we'd never heard before. Often we were trying to learn a piece of music strictly from reading the music. And it's a bit like trying to rake leaves with one hand tied behind your back. It would be a lot easier if you could use both hands. You can get the job done eventually, but using two hands would make it a lot faster. And what I mean by this is when I was studying classical music, when I was assigned a particular piece, what I eventually started doing was first going out and finding a recording of it. Sometimes I had to go to the library, or we'd have one at home because my mother loved classical music, and I would listen to the piece and follow along with the sheet music. And then I would know how it was supposed to sound once I learned it, and that gave me a head start. Now, I was never implicitly instructed to learn pieces this way, but I suspect that my teachers would have approved. And so I believe that the best way to learn a piece of music, whether it's a classical piece or a song, anything, is to listen to it and read the music. So if you want to play something that's not part of the classical repertoire, what do you do? What if you want to play a popular song? And you may get sheet music that looks like this. But if you play it exactly as written, something sounds off and it ends up sounding very stiff. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm looking over here at a very popular song called Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me by Elton John. And I'm going to play it exactly as it's written. This is written out, and I'm showing you a picture of it here. It's written in traditional piano music style. You got the treble clef, the bass clef, and everything is written out for you. So if you play it exactly as written, it'll sound like this. Now, that sounds pretty good so far, but when you start playing the melody, as you can see, it's starting to sound a little stiff. So what I'd like to do in this video is show you how the pros read music. And I'm talking about professional keyboardists, professional musicians who are not playing classical music. Now they start with some basic knowledge. Obviously they know the notes on the keyboard, they know the notes on the treble staff, they know how to read notes basically, time signatures, note values, key signatures, and so on. And they definitely know the 36 basic chords plus diminished and augmented chords. And so when they play a popular song, like when I was playing this particular song, I'd be doing one of these things, maybe playing it solo, like a cocktail pianist or a lounge pianist. I used to do that a lot. And maybe they're accompanying somebody. Somebody is singing this song now. Or they're playing it as part of a band, backing up a singer. And so in general, here's what a pro looks for. Most of the time, they're not reading from traditional piano music. That is, music that's completely written out with bass and treble clef lines. They may be presented with a lead sheet, which is the tune written out as a guide on a single staff, and the chords indicated above and the lyrics below. So here's what a lead sheet might look like. Sometimes they may be given a chord chart, which is just lyrics and chords. Here's what I'm presented with on any given Sunday as part of the music team when it comes to leading the singing in our church. And it is assumed that I am at least somewhat familiar with the melody. So the professional reads through the tune if it's written out in a lead sheet, and very often it's a tune with which they are familiar. The lead sheet serves to remind them of how it goes in case they can't quite remember how it goes all the way through. So the lead sheet shows them the tune and it shows them the chords and when the chords change. And as I mentioned, they've usually heard the tune and the chord changes. Now, interestingly enough, in many Nashville recording sessions, the musicians come in having never even heard the tune. And so it will be played for them. And while they are listening, they're writing down the chords, very often using the Nashville numbering system, which I explain in another video. If they're playing from a lead sheet, then they're using the notes as a guide. They don't play the tune exactly as written. Now, if they're playing as part of a band, or if they're accompanying a singer, they don't really play the tune at all. But they concentrate on the chords and creating a suitable accompaniment. The professionals, very often, they've experimented with different accompaniment patterns and things that they can draw upon to create an accompaniment on the spot for the singer. And I'll explore some of these accompaniment patterns in future videos. That's a quick introduction to the way the pros read music and the way they learn new songs. And so I'll explore each of these elements in detail in future videos. Thanks for watching. I encourage you to like this video as that helps the channel. Also subscribe if you have not yet subscribed. That also helps the channel. And I look forward to talking to you in the next one as we talk a little bit more about how a professional reads music, how they use music, and some of the accompaniment patterns that they can create.